This is our new planting of Amelanchier species and name varieties. Amelanchier or snowy mespilus are a tree which comes mainly from North America but also from Europe and Asia, and they're a bit like a cherry, as we've seen already. And here we've got 23 different varieties which were planted this year as part of a new collection. Amelanchier are a great plant in the landscape because when their white flowers first appear in the spring, usually alongside the leaves, they do look like snow from a distance in a bankside. And what we're trying to do here with these 23 different plants is to create something of that effect. They're not big trees, many of them are shrubs, and some of them will form multi-stemmed shrubs, maybe with a leader, so they're some way between trees and shrubs. And on this bankside, they'll be visible from a very long way away. Amelanchiers do produce fruit, or some of the varieties produce fruit, but really they're a flowering tree. They're a relatively little known genus, but these plants have come from the closure of a nursery up in the home counties who specialised in Amelanchiers and used to hold the national collection. They've closed the nursery and moved down to Cornwall in retirement, and fortunately we've been able to benefit from that. So let's just have a look at a few close-ups of these beautiful little flowers and give you a little taste of what this may look like in 20 or 30 years' time. So this is Amelanchier ovalis, commonly known as the Wisley Form, which has lovely white clusters of flowers, and the leaves as they emerge are bluish green. This is Amelanchier La Paloma, which is a first-class certificate variety, which is the highest RHS award. The flowers are pink as they come out, but here they've already faded to white. But you can see the beautiful bronzy reddish leaves that are coming out with the flowers, which is a key feature of so many Amelanchiers. And this is Amelanchier ovalis Jersey Belle, which has its flowers arranged in clusters in a different way to the others we've looked at. But again, you see the nice bronzy new growth appearing behind the flowers, which is one of the most attractive features of these plants. And this is Amelanchier bartramiana, which is a rather lesser known species. And here, as you can see, the flowers are rather smaller and the leaves appear as a green rather than the rather more attractive brown. So we've moved on a whole year because last year when we were filming we missed some of the larger tree Amelanchiers. And I'm standing below one of the commonest and best known of the snowy mespilus, and this is Amelanchier lamarckii. And you can see it's just coming into flower, and the flowers come with these rather attractive bronzy leaves which sort of sit below the flowers. You can see this is a multi-stemmed tree. It's a landscape plant. It's one of the larger growing species of Amelanchier, and it's not quite fully out yet, but it's making quite an impact in the landscape. And that's really what these trees do. They flower a little bit before the conventional street cherries or the other Japanese cherries. They're perhaps not quite as impressive, but they're tough as old boots, very hardy, and as you can see here, we've been pruning up the bottom of this multi-stemmed plant so that it gets more energy to growing further. At Windsor Great Park they grow this along the whole valley sides in large numbers, and when they're all out in flower you can just imagine looking across the valley how attractive these all look. And here quickly is another Amelanchier lamarckii, growing in more of a confined space, but showing up very nicely indeed, and with rather more flowers on than the one we saw before. So a year on in our Amelanchier plantation, and we've got a year's growth to look at, and 2 or 3 new varieties coming out. And this is Amelanchier asiatica, which has very pointed upright flowers and green new leaves with a nice silvery underside. I have to say I've never actually seen this variety in flower before, and it's not something which we have so far sold in the nursery at Burncoose, but you never know. Very attractive new variety in its own way. Another new variety just starting to get away, Amelanchier laevis Snowflakes. No guessing as to why that name has stuck to this plant. Here you see a very different coloured new leaf, not as reddish as some we've seen, but certainly on the red side, and with large flowers with quite rounded petals. Certainly a very nice thing. And here we've got Amelanchier laevis Princess Diana, which is quite similar to the one we just looked at, but with nice big flower clusters on stalks rather than individual flowers. Much more pointed petals to the flowers, but quite distinct and quite different, and already making a half decent tree. And here finally is a different species again. This is Amelanchier ovalis, Jennybelle, slightly different growth habit, not looking to be quite as vigorous as the last 2 we've looked at. Attractive panicles of flowers, rather more pointed petals and rather narrower petals, and again a different leaf colour in new growth to go with the different species. So I won't bore you with the other 17 or 18 varieties here which aren't quite yet out, you'll be glad to know, but hopefully we'd have a look at what Amelanchiers can do in the landscape and what they can do in your garden and what attractive plants they are.